So today I will be talking about underreported part of cybersecurity, one that we often don't talk about, right? Today's topic is when security fails people. It's the human cost of cyber incidents that we often ignore. So today we will not be talking about Defender tooling, cybersecurity tools. It's about I just want us to be a bit more human today. We don't want to concentrate on the logs today. We don't want to concentrate on mean time to respond, mean time to recover, all those things. It's about the people we don't talk about, the people behind the scenes, the ones that these incidents happen to in reality, right? So today I have it's just going to be it's not going to be that lengthy, right? I'm just going to talk about a few things I've put together on my agenda. Um, so the first thing we will address is the problem. Why security ignores human outcomes, why we have been set up to kind of do this, right? So if we don't kind of talk about the problem, we won't know what we will do and going forward, the solution to it, right? So the second thing, we will look at some case studies. The case studies will span from healthcare to finance and some data breaches. Some of these case studies we know. Then we'll look at real attack timelines. From my research, the same attacks keep coming up, so we probably know about them. We'll just look at the timelines and what actually happened, and the people that these things happened to, the consequences that they faced. Most of these consequences are often not reported for some reason that we'll also look at. Then we'll also look at the people who are at risk, the vulnerable guys, the demographic that nobody talks about. We'll try to talk about them, try to humanize them, try to see things from their perspective. Then we'll look at what good looks like. We've already looked at what the problem is. Then we'll also look at what the good is, what we can take away, what we can take to our organizations and kind of improve upon our processes, right? So what's the problem? In Nigeria, we have a saying that if you don't know what the problem is, then you probably won't know what the solution is. You won't even know how to go about it. So the same problem will keep recurring, right? That's a loosely translated proverb. I hope you understand what my point is, right? So the problem is that we track breaches and we count records, we measure downtime. We know all those things. We know, I'm pretty certain that most of us in this room know what the mean time to respond is, mean time to contain, all those things. Those are fancy terms. But we barely ask. For instance, okay, there was the Canvas breach for some days ago, where emails were leaked of people that use their platform. But all through the incident, I didn't see anything about the people that incident happened to. We don't even talk about them. We just say their email addresses were leaked, their date of birth was leaked. But what about those people? What actually happens to them after, right? So we often don't ask what happened to that person. If we say there's a ransomware incident, for instance, and it happened to a hospital, you could be going in for maybe a surgery that day. What happened to you? But they reported it as we had an incident, we have an ongoing incident, we are working to contain it. But what about you? What happens to you? You could be going in for a kidney scan, you could have a stroke, you could be going in for just about anything. Your life is affected, but nobody talks about you, right? So, what exactly is the human cost? The human cost I want to talk about is not the cost in terms of financial cost only. The cost cuts across many different parts. You could have something like psychological issues following like an incident. We will look at that shortly so you understand the exact point I'm trying to drive at. So for the psychological part of it, it's often difficult to quantify. As someone who has worked in mental health, when our patients or our service users try to talk about the mental issues they are facing, it is often kind of sidelined, or people think they are trying to lie their way through the system so they can get benefits or something like that. But following breaches, there's often this anxiety, this depression that comes with it, because these people that this incident happened to or that have to face the consequences, they often don't know where else that data could have popped up. They don't know who's going to use it. They don't know if they are going to suffer as a result of it. The psychological issues often remain there, but it's hard to quantify when we are doing our maybe workbooks or we are reporting to our senior executive about we've contained this incident. The people who are affected by this incident, the psychological issues persist. They are often anxious. They don't know if someone is going to use their information to get credit cards. They don't know. This persists over time and it's difficult to quantify and it's not even reported by anybody. Then the financial issue. Because of these breaches and their information, something like national insurance numbers, credit card information is leaked. People often face financial issues as a result of it, which is, I think, what most security professionals focus on. For instance, if let's say Target or Tesco was attacked and credit card information was stolen, the information that will typically go out from that company to these users will be, oh, you can request for a new credit card, you can request for this, you can request for that. But even with that kind of information or news that's going out, some people might not even receive it. Meanwhile, their information is compromised and they might suffer financial issues as a result of this. So look at the physical part. There's often this one I think we underrate it unless it happens to us, or unless we think it will happen to us. For some people, they might be going in for scans which could be life-threatening or life-changing. Now imagine getting to, let's say for kidney issues, for example. It takes an average of 1 year to 2 years to get like a replacement kidney. While you are waiting for that replacement kidney, you have to go through dialysis, you have to go through all those things. You are suffering as a result. Now imagine there's a cyber attack and appointments have to be cancelled or shifted. Now you have to wait for the kidney that was even supposed to be transplanted to you can die or can be rendered useless as a result. So you can suffer disrupted care as a result. You can, a plethora of things can happen to you, as we will see. So the human cost is not limited to these three, but it's kind of compressed into these three as something that we can easily relate to. So we will look at about 3 case studies just to see the severity of this issue, and to kind of try to think about how it can affect us, or how it can be related to us. You understand? So the first one we'll look at is ransomware in healthcare. This is from a patient's perspective, not from a company's perspective, where we get lawyers, we get the public relations team to kind of send out updates about it, about what we are doing about it technically. From the human part of it, nobody often talks about, oh, this is what we are doing about it pertaining to some people's health. In 2023 alone, there were like 147 ransomware attacks on healthcare-related facilities that were reported. These are the ones that were reported. Some companies or some organizations might not consider the breach substantial enough for them to even report. So this number might even be more. So from the NHS incident of 2024, there were reports that there were patients that were at risk of serious harm. The issue with this is that oftentimes if there's a ransomware attack, the attackers will likely get paid, right? So for their disruption, they still get paid. Like the Canvas one from some days ago, I think they paid the attackers. But the disruptions that could have happened to people that use maybe the NHS, nobody talks about it, nobody cares, right? Oh, sorry. So in most instances, they will typically be canceled surgeries. Things like vital things like chemotherapy will get delayed. If you have ever cared for someone that has cancer or that died from cancer, like I did with my aunt before she passed on, you will know that this is very essential, and missing out on chemotherapy treatment could spell doom for the patient. It could make their condition get worse. It could make it, especially for the ones that they detect late, right? But even with the severity of things like this, things like surgeries that may get postponed, nobody still talks about it from the patient's angle. Nobody empathizes with the patient. From the time I used to work in healthcare, oftentimes we would book appointments for the patient in advance, sometimes 6 months, sometimes 7 months. So imagine after waiting for 7 months in excruciating pain, the ransomware attack delays you. You get no respite, nobody plans for around you, nobody tells you anything. They just tell you to go home. So imagine how I've actually seen this situation before, and the patients often transfer aggression to the person who takes them for the appointments instead of the people who have cancelled the surgery or the appointment. So it's something that we should kind of think about, try to see if it was us that were in the shoes of these people that had their surgeries cancelled. In some cases, ICU staff will also revert to pen and paper because the infrastructure that supports the job they do, when you go to a GP or a doctor, they have to get your history, get your files, see what you came for, see how best to help you if certain medication has already been prescribed. If it works, if it doesn't work, the effects. Now imagine the ICU staff having to use pen and paper without prior history of what happened to you, without prior history of what's going on with you. That could spell doom for the patient. That could lead to more issues for that patient. It could even lead to delayed care in most cases. So medical records often are, because it is stolen in ransomware attacks, it is encrypted. There's a back and forth between the attackers and the person and the hospital. Usually, these medical records won't be accessible for weeks, right? So that not being accessible for weeks means the patient gets delayed care. If you can't read your history, there's no way to kind of know where to send you to, know what exactly is wrong with you. You have to talk with your mouth. So imagine like having to have a heart surgery and it's delayed. And you go to the hospital and you have to tell them with your mouth, this is the medication I've been using, this is the dosage, they'll probably just cancel it and say you should go home. So just look at it from the perspective of a patient, someone who has to go to the NHS and then your care gets disrupted. Try to imagine it not from the technical, someone that isolates systems or things like that. From the patient's point of view, then you start to understand where the problem is and start to imagine what we can do better as cybersecurity professionals. So we'll look at case study 2 from the romance, fraud, and financial perspective, which is what a lot of cybersecurity professionals concentrate on. In the UK, in 2023, over 1.1 billion was lost to fraud in 2023 alone. 40% of those victims report impact on their mental health. But this impact on their mental health, how many of us in this room even know what mental health is like? How many people have worked in that field? How many people kind of try to empathize with someone if they have anxiety or mental health issues? Most people just disregard it, except to have worked in that field and you know what it is like, how it impacts people's life. So in most cases, people have their retirement savings stolen overnight. This could be someone who has been lured into an investment scam, right? In one swoop, they could send money to these threat actors or these attackers, and their money is lost. In most cases, banks often engage in victim blaming. My wife works in a bank, and she says that anything that is termed as APP, that's push payment, that means you authorize the transfer. It's difficult to recover that money. because the victim or is said to have authorized that transfer. So you know what you were doing. You put your fingerprints there, and you authorize that transfer. So your money ends up being lost most of the time, unless you are able to prove that the bank could have done better. This doesn't work. So there's often a depression, the depression that comes with it, the suicidal thoughts. There's a spelling mistake here. So most people are often depressed, and because of the financial fraud or the financial issues they have, often to this romance fraud, this 419 fraud, this 419 scams. There's a huge possibility of them being homeless as a result, because you can't meet rent, you can't meet your mortgage, and your bank says, oh, we have to put this house out for sale. This is something that it's difficult to put into words. Someone that has lost their home, someone that is homeless, they often have to sleep in the cold. They often have to deal with mentally unstable people on the street. This could lead to suicidal thoughts for them. Someone that was here all of a sudden gets dragged here because of financial devastation that could come as a result of maybe their information being leaked online, someone using their information to buy stuff, running into debt as a result. Let me use this one. So for case study 3, we'll look at database breaches. Usually, when there's a database breach, you see things like, oh, we are currently working to fix this issue. Oh, we have blocked the endpoints. Oh, it was just minor unauthorized access. They didn't steal much. They stole only email addresses. They stole only your date of birth. They stole only your NIN. It gets talked about for maybe 24, 48 hours. If it's 72 hours, they often have to report to the Information Commissioner's office. For example, they pay maybe 4% of their revenue, and life just goes on. Within 72 hours, the person or the victims get forgotten, but the aftermath often lingers with them over more like it's you can't even limit, you can't even say this is how much the impact or the aftermath will linger with them. Why is this not? So things like identity theft. For instance, if your NIN or your SSN, if you're in the US, is stolen in a breach, there's no limit to what can be done with that information, especially with the use of AI. Let me give you an example. So recently, we've been seeing an uptick in identity theft attacks, then that information being used to open bank accounts, and then overdraft being taken. So you are in your house, your data has been leaked as a result of a breach. The company doesn't even notify you that there's been a breach, but your identity is being used by attackers or it's already in the dark web and it's used for nefarious purposes, and you don't even know. So with the advent of AI, these people can take that information, set up bank accounts, use deepfake or AI to like do the facial recognition, and they start to use your NI for nefarious purposes. But you don't even know. This could even happen to children who they've not even started their life, but their identity is already on the internet or on the dark web, and it's already being used. But the companies don't even tell you about it. So you are in a limbo, you don't even know. But your address is getting used. So there's also the psychological harm that comes with it. There's usually a loss of trust in organizations, in banks. For instance, my parents, because of the numerous breaches in Nigeria, they don't even trust ATMs. They don't even trust banks. So they prefer to just walk in to make withdrawals instead, because things like this has happened to people that they know. So they often don't trust the system. They know that there's usually this helplessness that comes after your information has been leaked. You don't know what to do. You don't know where to go. There's even nobody to take the blame, or someone that you can apportion the blame to. So apart from the psychological harm, thank you. There's the domestic abuse risk. Um, in breaches, we can have location or personal information leaked. This can enable stalking and coercive control. So I used to work with a particular organization that deals specifically with things like this. And I have had a case where the person had to move across cities more than 6 times because their information kept getting leaked. And the attacker was really tech savvy and could call the GP with some personal information and socially engineer the people at the GP. Unbelievable, but I could not also believe it when I heard it, but this was done. So the person kept having to move across cities just because their information kept getting leaked for some reason. So imagine you running away from an attacker from, say, London to the West Midlands. The person gets your information again. You run to Middlesbrough. You can't even have a life because of that. But the people who their database got breached, they don't even tell you. They just say, okay, we've contained this breach. Oh, we are now working with our security providers. Oh, we are now working with NSCSC or something like that. Just to pacify you, but without actually doing anything about it. There's no recourse for you. There's no way to go about ensuring that this does not happen again. You just have to keep trusting those guys. But it keeps getting leaked. So we underestimate especially this part because it's not something all of us experience. We see it on maybe Netflix, we watch it as a movie, then we just go about our daily lives. But this is a massive risk for people. This happens every day. They have to keep moving, they have to keep watching their backs, just off the back of their information being leaked online. So the after all this, the identity theft, the psychological harm, the domestic abuse risk, the zero account, there's the lot of them all, the zero accountability that comes with it. So when the databases get leaked, typically they pay the information commissioner's office, or they offer some sort of little compensation, or they send letters to people or emails. Emails are cheaper. The victims that this thing happens to, they rarely get any compensation. If, let's say, a company pays 17 million to the information commissioner's office, the people who their information gets leaked, they don't even get anything. They just get emails. Emails are cheap, right? But the ICO gets 17 million. I don't even get anything. It is extremely unfair. Then there's no accountability. Nobody says, oh, we own up to this. We are going to take care of it. This is the compensation we'll give you. None. You just get an email or a letter and say, oh, just ensure you keep monitoring your credit card, ensure you change your passwords, things like that. That to me doesn't make any sense. So we'll look at some attacks that we remember. We'll look at the timelines over the years, maybe from time of WannaCry to fairly recent. So most of the attacks we remember, but most of those victims we don't even remember them. We forget them. If you check for, say, you're making a research on ransomware attacks, for example, you will see some of these attacks, but you rarely see those individuals that are affected by these attacks. It's almost as if we try to make those attackers famous. We even give them fancy names. We give them fancy bear. We give them really nice names. But the victims are forgotten. They are not even remembered. So the first one is WannaCry. This is literally in all the researches, all ransomware researches I tried to check on IEEE. This was the first one mentioned. But in all of it, the only thing I could see was that 6,000 appointments were cancelled. This is 6,000 people, 6,000 plus, 6,000 people. But nobody talked about it affected 100 people, or 100 people died, or 200 people got massive injuries as a result of this. None. This WannaCry, like, lots of people. Okay, I think I saw that later, after digging, I saw that 100 people plus got life-threatening injuries as a result of this. 100 people plus. That's even an estimate, not an actual number. That could be more because it's difficult to kind of think about it or what the impact would have been on people over time. Like the examples I made earlier from kidney issues, it's difficult to know, okay, this is how this person's kidney deteriorated because of this attack in 2017. Conversely, the United Health Services attack, over 400 hospitals were affected. Now, this could be, I think this would have been more than this one. But still, we don't even talk about the victims. 400 people, 400 hospitals means that people that are trying to give birth, people that were shot, especially in the US where gun violence is common. Imagine getting shot in the head and you get to the hospital and they tell you there has been a ransomware attack. You should hold on. How would you feel? If your wife was trying to give birth and you were rushed to one of these hospitals, what do you think the effect would be? Losing your son, especially if you have been trying for a long time. So we have to think about it from our own perspective. Try to not be a bit selfish. Try to think about, if this had happened to me, how would I have felt? What would I have done? And I still don't even get any recourse or any notification from these affected hospitals. So similarly, HSC Ireland, the ransomware attack in 2021. In this case, chemotherapy was altered for people, radiology was altered for people. Still nothing was said to the victims. I didn't even see how many appointments were cancelled as a result of this. They didn't even care enough to even say it. But they will send out emails to them as expected. But nothing, no compensation, no research into this is who died as a result of chemotherapy, not being able to get access to chemotherapy. The radiology department was altered. So let's look at the last one. So the last one, NHS again. I really don't understand why they like to target NHS. Maybe because security is lax, or maybe enough controls are not in place. I don't know. I've never worked there. So in this case, I think it was 111 that was data associated with 111 was compromised. So this is data associated with people that have HIV, people that have psychiatric issues, people that have their addresses, everything was leaked online. Still, nobody said anything about the people affected by it. But we remember the attacks. If we are making research, we mention them, we cite them, we are so happy to quote them, but we don't talk about the people. Those people could be you, it could be I, it could be your spouse, it could be someone related to you. You understand? Just try to put it into perspective that way, then you understand what the problem is. So, for all we have said, who are the people the vulnerable people, the ones who experience this the most, the ones who are even are forgotten? These are older adults, for example. Older adults and children are more susceptible to this. Older adults, because they are more than 3 times likely to be defrauded. That is because they are more likely to be trusting, they are more likely to be less tech savvy, right? And they are more or less likely to report because of the shame of I caused it, or I was the one that authorized it, that often comes with it. They are often less likely to report being victims of fraud. And the problem is, when they even try to report, or they summon the courage to report, they find out quickly that these digital services are not made with them in mind. They are often told, go and log a complaint. If they go to the bank, they are told, go and log a complaint online, go and report it online, then we'll get back to your call customer service or something. They are not taken serious. Apart from that, children, someone who has not even finished secondary school or high school has their information already leaked. They did not even get a notification about it. They were not told their SSN was leaked. It is often after like maybe 10 years or when they are older, when they try to open a bank, that's when they discover that their information leaked online, it's already been used, they're already behind on their credit. So imagine not even having much to do with it, but your information is still getting leaked and used. Yeah. So people that have chronic illnesses, people that have terminal illnesses, people that have life-threatening challenges, people that need urgent care, they often experience bear the burden more than others because it's their life. For people in this category, we can say, at the risk of not sounding empathetic enough, we can say they can still like use some services to repair their credit, to kind of ensure that their information is no longer being used. But this is someone's life. Even if you are studying for something like, okay, so domestic abuse survivors, these people have their location leaked, their employment information leaked. This can be easily used to track them and to cause harm to them. Low-income household, it is estimated that over 25% of people in the UK don't have up to 4,000 in savings. So now imagine you're having just maybe 2,000 in savings, having to pay rent, your information gets leaked, and money gets taken from your account. And sometimes they even say it's APP. You can't recover access to that money. It affects you more than most. You can lose your house as a result. You can go homeless as a result. There are other factors that can come as a result of this. Migrants and refugees, these ones are really underrated. For instance, if you are trying to pay for 4-year sponsorship for you and your spouse, you often have to shell out over £14,000 for this. Now, if £14,000 gets taken out of your account, assisted by a breach that has happened somewhere you don't know, that means you have the risk of losing your status. For refugees, this can mean that they won't have access to the care or housing or things like that they usually would need in an environment they are not familiar with. So this slide is titled scotoma. Scotoma means something that is there but that you ignore. Something like your nose. Your eyes knows your nose is there, but your brain trains it to ignore it. So these are people that we ignore, that the system ignores for some reason. Maybe because they don't make up for fancy metrics or for fancy dashboards. So these are people like the elderly victims, people who have been scammed, people who say they feel used, they feel stupid. But it's a system that allows those criminals to operate, not them. It's a system that has not put in the proper guardrails, not them. People like NHS staff, the NHS staff, this is a quote from one of the incidents where they had to revert to the old way of doing things with pen and paper. And NHS staff should not be called the last line of defense. Their job is to administer care, to administer medication, to administer injections to people, not to be the last line of cybersecurity. We are the ones that are supposed to put in guardrails that will make them not have to do these things. If we get to the hospital, a nurse will not say, okay, you're the last line of something, give someone injection for me. A breach victim, these ones are also ignored because we say it's just a database breach. We don't say it's forced her to move. We don't pay our expenses. We don't pay our relocation costs. We don't have to keep watching our backs. We don't have to install the cameras. But they are affected and they are ignored still. So the root cause, we'll just look at why the industry looks away before we go on to the final one. So metrics don't capture it. Metrics are the ones we often want to report to the executives about why our security tooling is fine. Legal deterrence, in that most legal practitioners often have an image of the company to protect. They don't go deep into what has happened. They don't go deep into what they will do to help the victims because they often don't want to pay when it comes to class actions. They don't want to pay more than necessary. So there's the victim blaming culture. We often say things like the user clicked on the link, the user authorized the transfer, the user should have known better. But the user behavior is often not security architecture. We are the ones that are supposed to do better tooling to protect those users, kind of make sure they confirm that information before they transfer, make transfers so that they don't get susceptible to fraud. So end user omission. These users, even though they are the ones that use our services, they don't even get a seat. Most of them wouldn't even be here right now. They don't get a seat when we are making policies. They don't get a seat when we are trying to make the cybersecurity decisions. But they are the ones that are most affected by it, and they're the ones that we look away from. So we have looked at the bad. We have talked about the bad for some time now. So we have to look at what good is.
Really sorry to interrupt. Oh, no, I think I was enjoying it as well, but unfortunately we are overrunning. Are you staying around for the day?
Yeah.
So Oludolamu will be around for the day. So if you've got an interest in what he's been talking about, please go and find him. But we do need to move on because we've got quite a tight agenda today. But thank you very much for that.
Thank you.